Hello everyone, welcome back in my online class. So myself Vishal Pandey, and today I will be discussing about the Pitt's India Act of 1784. So children, as you all had understood, the Regulating Act of 1773, and because it was not appropriate, Britishers found it not appropriate, not up to the mark. Because of that only, Pitt's India Act was introduced in India. So basically it was started in 1784. So we will be understanding in this topic that how Pitt's India Act came into existence and who was Pitt, William Pitt. I will be telling you when I will be using the projector. So we will be discussing today Pitt's India Act. We will be discussing the background of Pitt's India Act, monopoly to trade, administration, something more we will be understanding in this video. So let us move towards the projector. Okay children, as you can see on the screen, Pitt's India Act of 1784 has been written. So we will be understanding today this one. So this is the structure of British Parliament. It is important to show this before you because Pitt's India Act was generated from this structure, that is British Parliament itself. As you can see, if we talk about in the year of 1780 especially, in this structure, that is the British Parliament itself, a man entered and his name was William Pitt. So this he was the genuine personality who came into the British Parliament at a very young age, especially at the age of 21 years, and he dominated British Parliament and became the first youngest Prime Minister of England. So Pitt's India Act was originated from his name, that is William Pitt. As I was saying that he at the age of 21 he came into British Parliament, and you can see here he came in British Parliament in the year 1780 and he became Prime Minister of England in the year 1783. And he became the first youngest Prime Minister of England. Okay, so whenever you talk about Pitt's India Act, William Pitt became Prime Minister in the year 1783, and after 1 year, just after 1 year, in the year 1784, he launched Pitt's India Act that was to be introduced in India itself. So children, as you can see that the competition between East India Company, especially British government and Court of Directors, East India Company was in the hands of British government as well and Court of Directors as well, as I have suggested you in when I was teaching you all the Regulating Act. In that pro forma, Court of Directors were there. Their numbers were 24. There were 24 members in Regulating Act. So Court of Directors and British government were snatching or pulling East India Company on their behalf. So this was the main reason why William Pitt introduced Pitt's India Act in the year 1784. So if you want to understand Pitt's India Act in a detailed way, you have to go through these circumstances. What you have to understand in this topic is as follows. Starting from monopoly of trade, this is very necessary, important as far as this topic is concerned. Second is control of company, how East India Company was working in India. Then how its administration was. This is very prominent about this topic because we are discussing the British administrative structure in India. So administration is very much important as far as rule is concerned. Then we will be discussing central legislature, that how the rules were formed, how the laws were put in, and how it get passed away straight away from British legislature, what was the role of Governor General, what was the role of executive councils, each and everything will be discussed by me. Then provincial legislature, what do you understand by provincial? As I have told you earlier in my previous lectures, that province, we had 3 provinces, that the first one was of Bengal, then we had Bombay, and then Madras. So we will be discussing about this legislature as well. And finally, we will be discussing about revenue, that which type of taxes were taken away by East India Company at that particular time. So these are some stances which we have to discuss in this topic. Let us move to next slide. Now the first topic was monopoly of trade. Now what do you understand by monopoly of trade? What is the word monopoly? Monopoly of trade means the right to trade given to somebody. Now you can see this is the globe of world, and you can clearly see in this portrait that these the lines which are there, the portrait which is there with the blue color, you can see, and it has been written monopoly of trade continued. What is the basic structure, what is the basic meaning, which has to be clear today itself, because this is the reason where Britishers were free to trade. What it means? This is the large area of Atlantic and Indian Ocean itself, where Britishers were free to trade and nobody else were involved in this criteria. Only the Britishers were given some monopoly to trade over here. So they were given free-handed to trade and to explore themselves. So this area is very important. You can be given on your atlas, on your world map, to mark the area. So keep this in your mind. In your examination, this type of question can come. So be prepared. If we talk about monopoly of trade, you should be clear at once that this is the area where they used to belong. Next we have control of company. As you know that company, East India Company itself, what was its control? If you talk about regulating act, there were commercial and political issues of company in that topic as well. But can you tell me what is the difference between regulating act and Pitt's India Act, the controls of company? Yes, let me brief you more on this topic. If you talk about regulating act, we had only court of directors and nobody else to control commercial and political issues. But what William Pitt did was, he introduced board of control as well in this pro forma. So the difference, it can be asked in your examination, that differentiate between regulating act and Pitt's India Act in terms of commercial and political issues. So you can straight away tell anyone that commercial act was controlled by court of directors in the number 24 itself, and political issues were controlled by board of control. Let us move towards the next slide. If somebody asks that what is the number of board of control, it can be asked in your examination in 1 mark as well, like in true false and MCQs type question it can be asked. The numbers of members, those who are there in board of control, there were in 6 numbers. So 24 court of directors were there and 6 members board of control were there, and it was the scenery of a dual government type. So dual government for India was introduced by court of directors and board of control. You can see, if we talk about administration, because we have already covered 2 topics, this is the third one, administration. So administration is very clear, nothing has changed more. If you keep in your mind the regulating act, you can easily understand the Pitt's India Act as well, because there was also Bengal presidency in the head, who was the cynosure of this administration. these two, the Bombay presidency and Madras presidency, will report to Bengal presidency. But what had happened in Pitt's India Act, the number of executive councils, which were 4 in regulating act, it reduced to 3. So we will have the next slide and see. Yes, you can see here it had reduced, and only 3 members are there in Pitt's India Act. In which category? The executive council. So children, this is enough for today. In the next presentation, I will be discussing the legislature, provinces and revenues of Pitt's India Act, how it was working. I hope you all will understand by this topic, by this presentation very clearly. Watch this video as many times as you can and try to facilitate yourself in terms of administration and many more things regarding Pitt's India Act. So be tuned and stay updated. You will be getting the notifications soon. Thank you.